Great. Okay. Well, we'll make a start. So, guys, I don't know who was on the session earlier today, but I'll just give a quick intro on who I am, what the purpose of this session is. So I'm Mike Rogers. I head up the development team, for the product development team for HomeGauge. This is a little bit different. We don't normally run these kinds of sessions via the web for such a large group. Normally, this is something we do with beta testers. Normally, this is something I like to do in person. Usually, we tag along training sessions, or we'll tag along for some of the conferences, and we'll kind of pull some existing users aside and we'll get some feedback. But if this goes well and if this format works for everyone, I think we might tweak it, and we're going to be doing more of these over the web. So what we're doing today is we're going to look at the home buyer dashboard. And this is a feature that it's been available for a number of years. We revamped it, I'd like to say, probably 6 months ago, and we rolled that out to the whole user base. And we want to make sure that we've provided the right experience for everyone. So what I'll be doing is I'll be walking you through kind of what the intent was, who the users were, why we made certain decisions, and then really walk you through the experience. And it's a chance for, via this form, for you to give us some real-time feedback. And so I'll be walking through kind of the experience. You can say, hey, does this meet my needs? Do I think there's some things missing from this? And then we'll give you a sneak peek into some things that have come up through previous sessions. Now, these are items that in some of the previous trainings that we've done, I've put up Trello boards and I've asked people to kind of identify a wish list of things that they want. Some of it's been through conversations directly with people, and some of it's been through my interaction with support. So I'll walk you through some ideas we're considering, then we'll vote on what we think are the best ideas. And this feeds directly into our product development process. So coming out of this, in the next few weeks, we're going to be reviewing the best ideas with engineering, and we're going to start moving forward either on some of the revisions that you've requested, or it'll inform which of those features that we should move forward. So what I'll do is we'll jump through to the next slide. If you could check out that feedback form, it's sitting in the chat. I'll quickly jump into the chat and see if there's any questions about that. It's a Google form. All I'd like you to do is just put in your name, your email address, and what role you primarily do. I know that there might be some people that you're just an interested party. Put in as close as you can to what your job is. This helps us. We want to get all different kinds of feedback. So knowing whether you're an inspector versus a buyer versus a realtor helps us understand. We can aggregate all that information and we can see kind of where your perspective lies. Do want to stress that this is purely for product development purposes. Any information you provide here, we're not going to use it on the website. If you email us, if you provide your email address, this is purely so that I can contact you after with any clarifying questions. You're not going to be added to any kinds of marketing lists. So I'd say before we jump into it, definitely everyone make sure that you can get into that Google form. If you have any problems, please raise your hand and the moderator will jump in and give you any help. Just going to quickly check out the chat. Not seeing the feedback form in the chat. Okay, I'll just post this again. And what I'll do is here's one I made earlier. I've got the form here. It should look like this. And then what you can do is I'll be filling this out as we go along, just so you can see kind of what the expectation is. So normally would either be face-to-face or it'd be much more interactive. Since it's a larger group, the general focus group format doesn't really work. It can get quite chaotic. So we're going to go through the form. And then what we'll do is, following up from this, I think there'll be a few things that we deep dive into. And then we'll do some smaller actual focus groups with some of you guys. Awesome. So jump in. So I'll take you through what some of the objectives are of the buyer dashboard. So the core features that we're addressing, so I'd use product terminology, it's the use cases. So we're focusing this on the buyer. The main things that we want to have the buyer do is we want them to sign agreements. We want them to be able to make payments. We want them to be able to view a report, share a report, create a CRL, and then there's an opportunity for getting additional value-added services. This is, as I said before, this is targeted towards the buyer. It should be available across all platforms, mobile, tablet, desktop, laptop. We do see via our usage stats that it's no surprise for anyone, mobile is the preferred way that people are consuming both the dashboard and the scheduler. So anything on the consumer side, any interaction you're having with buyers, it's going to be mobile first. And again, that's no surprise that that wave's been going on for the last 10, 15 years. So I'm just going to jump through. I've filled in some basic information about myself, jump through, and then we'll go into the next slide where we can, what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through the current experience, and I'll take you through all the different features, and then we'll just get some general feedback. And the idea is that I'd like what we've done is we've given 4 questions here, and we're just saying, hey, overall, how satisfied are you with this feature? Does this generally do what you expect it to do? And it's just a general rating. And then we're going to get into a little bit more detail on why you think it does or it doesn't meet expectations. Is it to do with the way the page is laid out? Is it to do, is it intuitive? Can you find everything easily? And then could it be that perhaps some of the features aren't there that you'd expect? And then we do just want to open it up with just some general questions. So if you have, hey, it's awesome, but I really think you should have this, or I've seen this elsewhere, you can provide that feedback as well. So what I'm going to do is I'll bring up the page. I just want to make sure that there's everyone's in the form right now. Okay, it looks like everyone's in. And we will, as we're going through this, I'll provide the general overview. We'll jump back, and while people are filling out some of these questions, I'll jump over to some questions, and we'll answer some questions to give you some time to fill out the form. Right, so here's a buyer. I've signed in as a buyer account. I can see all of my inspections. I can see my inspectors. So I can see anyone who has conducted an inspection for me. I can review them if I want. I can see their contact details. I can administer my account. I can update the password. I can change any of the details. This is the property cover page. This guy didn't implement a cover page. This is the inspector logo. This is one that I set up as an example. And then it gives me some basic information about the property and when the inspection took place. So what we're going to do is I'll click on this guy. Now, as you've probably seen with some of the presentations about extra care, if the inspector is a participant in extra care, we'll display this additional text here. Everyone coming to our site needs to accept the terms of use and privacy policy. This just says what our commitment is to the user, how we're allowed to use the data, how the user is expected to behave on our platform. So everyone has to accept this guy. This is purely optional. All that happens here is if you click on this guy, then you would have the opportunity to get a home insurance quote after you've viewed your inspection. Again, this is optional. There's no penalty. So what we'll do is I'm now looking at my home inspection report screen. So I'm seeing an overview of the property, showing me that I've got a report. I've got the option to create a request list. I can get a quote on the insurance quote immediately if I want. And then I'm seeing the inspection report. Now, if I had any agreements or any payments to make before viewing the report, these guys would appear over here on the right-hand side. The review report button would be available, and then there'd be a workflow, which I could show you as well, which would show me the steps that I need to complete. So what we'll do is jump in and view the inspection report. Again, this should be pretty familiar to you guys. Here's how the inspection report looks for the end users. Again, this page, so you've got the ability to download it, share it. Click on this guy. It's out. some inspections, jump in here. Everything is accessible on a mobile device. So you can see the menu crunches down. This is primarily how people are consuming reports that we found from usage stats that everyone's looking at mobile. So I'll expand that guy. I'll take you into another report. I can jump between reports. So this is everything that's been done for this guy. I've got information about the team. I've got my contact information. I've got the agreement. So I can go in here. I can see any copies of my agreements. I can sign them if I want to. And then we'll go back to my inspections. Everything here. Pretty straightforward. We deliberately tried to keep everything very simple. It's very mobile friendly. This is the way that people are typically consuming the inspections. We wanted to reduce the number of steps as much as possible, make it clear what steps are needed. So what I'd like to do is I'll hand it over to you guys. If you filled out the basic information, if you could jump over to this section, which is feedback, general feedback, and if you could answer those 3 questions. So 1, let us know your overall satisfaction with this feature. 2, let us know how you feel about how intuitive it was to get around the page. And then 3, did this have all the actual features you expect? Was there something specific that was missing? And everything's 1 through 5. 1 is basically absolutely terrible. 3, okay, it kind of meets needs, and 3 and 5, yep, absolutely spot on. Everything's great. And then just general feedback if there's something that you'd like to see here. So what I'll do is I'll give you a couple of minutes to rate that, and then we'll take a look and I'll see if there are any questions in here. So I've got a question here from Keith. Are my clients seeing banner ads for American Family Insurance? Is this an opt-in or opt-out feature? So they are only seeing this message. So let's go back to this. This guy here, they're only seeing this if they are, in that previous section when they very first used the tool, if they checked and said, I would like a no obligation insurance quote. If at any point they don't want to see this, or if for whatever reason they go, you know what, I've changed my mind. It's really easy. They can just come down to the privacy policy, scroll to the bottom, check this guy, and then the next time they log back in, it'll be gone. So I'll come back here, and it's gone. And they won't be contacted, no information. They won't need to do anything else. They won't need to contact us to tell us to do anything else. So it's really straightforward. And likewise, if you're in the program and someone says, you know what, I said that I didn't want to be part of the program, but actually, I think having a quote would be useful. Come straight down to the privacy policy and opt back in to extra care. And that's it. So I'll do, so go back out. So for Canadian customers, so this is opting you in. Basically, so I'm having a look at, I've got another question here from Keith, and he's saying, is this even the case for Canadian customers? So we do look at the specific areas where American Family Insurance or other providers have coverage. If they're in an area that we don't have a partnership with, then nothing would happen with that information. They wouldn't receive any offers. We're trying to provide as much coverage as possible. We're focusing on the US at the moment. There are some partnerships specifically with Canada that we're looking into, but I'd say anyone in Canada right now wouldn't be receiving any offers. So what we'll do is we'll jump into the next session. So I'm going to jump back to the presentation. So now hopefully you've filled out this information here. What we'll do is now we're going to walk through some of the features that we've received from some of the feedback sessions. So I've got 7 here. This isn't every item that we're looking at. I cherry picked some of the more interesting ones, some of the ones that we hear more about. Obviously, I expect that coming from this session, you guys are going to have some great ideas you're going to throw out there. But what I'll do is I'll walk through these 7 ideas. Some of them, it'll just be a discussion, or I'll just give you an overview. Some of it we've got some mock-ups, and we'll walk you through that. So first up, we have the messaging hub. So I hear this has come up in previous Q&As, and this comes up a lot, where buyers want a means of communicating with the inspector directly from while they're viewing the report. So they've got a question about something specific, and they'd like the realtor to know about it. And there are already some solutions out there specifically for realtors. I know that we heard this morning about Dotloop. That's one that I'm pretty familiar with. But especially on the inspection side, the inspectors are managing emails, sometimes text messages. The realtor likes to communicate by text message. The buyer likes to communicate by email. You've got to try and keep all of this in one place for a specific property. So we're looking at different ways that we could kind of consolidate that, so everyone gets to communicate in the way that they want, and it's all stored in one place. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to walk you through, this is what we call some basic wireframes. These are just a way of us to illustrate some ideas that we've got. So I'll bring this up. So the idea would be, as a buyer, I'm looking at my home inspection report, and I've got this little chat icon down here. And this is pretty familiar with anyone who's used the real-time support for HomeGauge. Very similar technology. I'd click on that, and the buyer would have the opportunity, if the inspector's online, they could be talking in real time. If not, they have the ability, it would just it would log a message from the inspector. So they could ask a question in real time. They could say, hey, look, I'm looking at this thing in the report. I don't understand it. And we find this is really common with new buyers. You've done your best to explain everything as you've been going through the property. You've brought them on the journey. You've told them what to expect when the report comes through. You might have even had a quick call with them, but it's overwhelming. This is a big document. There's a lot of details in here. There's a lot going on for a buyer. They might have some questions a little later on. So they can just reach out to you directly and say, hey, look, I don't really understand this specific thing in the report. How serious is this? What should I be doing about this? You can give a little bit of context. Obviously, here I put into just an example, just saying, hey, look, you should really get this evaluated by a contractor. It's more of a maintenance item. It's not an immediate concern. That you can resolve it there and then. And you can go through and you can go back and forth. But you don't necessarily have to be in the platform. This could be something that we're forwarding to you via text. Maybe you want to use text. You don't want another app to keep track of. You can just be going back and forth, but you're communicating with the buyer in the means that they prefer. Or maybe that's not the way. Maybe the buyer is using this within their cell phone. They're looking at the report on their cell phone, and it's coming to you, and you're just responding on your phone. And you're both working in the way that you're used to working. You don't have a separate platform to go into. And it keeps track of all the different communications you've had. So that's the first idea that we're looking into. We've heard a lot of reports from users that text messages is becoming everyone's favorite form of communication. Depends on the individual, but we're seeing a lot of communication move to text. Instant messaging, a lot of consumers now expect some kind of instant text way that they can reach out to anyone that they are in business with. So I think you're probably finding it more and more that people are texting you with questions anyway. So this is a way of moving it to a hub so you've got a single place to track it all. So that's the first idea. And what we'd like to do is, as we're going through these, if you could just help us with, give it a quick rating on must have, okay, don't care. Must have is like, yep, this is game changing. This is going to generate me new business. I really think this would be a differentiator for us. Okay, it's like, all right, it's neat, but it's not gonna really change anything for me. Don't care is like, hey, don't be wasting your time on this. You should be addressing something else. And what we'll do with this information is we're going to look at it in aggregate. The most interesting ideas, the ones that you guys think have the most value, we're going to be doing some smaller focus group, and we're really going to be weeding out what this could be before we engage engineering. And some of these ideas we're going to turn into real features within the system. So I'm just going to quickly check in on Q&A before we proceed. Just make sure everyone's following and not having any issues. Looks good. Okay, Next up is pricing estimating enhancements. So you've provided a report and you've said, hey, look, there's an issue with rot around these window frames. It's an old house. It's not entirely unusual for this age of property and this kind of area, but you know, this is something you should be aware of. The very next thing which we find comes up is the buyer says, okay, well, how much is this? Is this something I should try and get the seller to pay for? Is this something that I could take on? Is this something I could even tackle myself? What I find is the realtors kind of put their thumb in the air and go, I think this is like $250. I know a guy that can do this. The inspector, you guys are trying to remain impartial. You don't want to mislead anyone. You've also got different obligations, but you want this to be accurate. You want people to understand kind of how serious this is and how costly it could be. So we're looking at integrating with some services to provide you with estimates for some of the items that are highlighted in the report. So what I'll do is I'll walk you through how that might look. And again, this is just indicative, but it could be embedded directly in the report. This could be an optional feature. But one of the things we're looking at is we've got a decision sciences team, which is able to look at a lot of this information in aggregate, and we can provide that back to the inspectors. And so when you're going out and doing an inspection, we might be able to say, hey, look, for this area and this type of property, here are some common problems. So pay extra special attention to these. On the flip side, we're also able to say, these types of problems, we've got an idea of what some of these outcomes were, and we know how much some of the repairs are likely to cost. We can feed some of that information back to you so that you can provide it to the customer, give them additional peace of mind. It's another differentiator for you guys when you're out there in the market to say, hey, look, I'm not just going to give you a report to tell you what's wrong. I'm going to tell you how to maintain it. I'm going to give you an idea of how much this might cost. So we're toying around with, can't specifically say in all cases how much a repair would cost, but just saying this type of repair typically is above $500, or this type of repair would be a quick fix. It would just be under $100, things like that. So that's another area that we're looking at, whether we could embed that either within the report, whether we could provide this as a separate feature, whether it could be more closely integrated with CRL. So spin back. That's this guy right here. Just want to make sure, looking at the Q&A, Cindy is having some issues with seeing the questions. We'll just make sure. I'm going to repost the document in the chat. Cindy, if you take a look at the webinar chat, I just put the Google Doc form in there. Just fill out your basic information and you'll be able to catch up pretty quick. Okay, so next one. I'm going to talk to this. So I'm going to give you a little preview. In the summer, we're already working on two new print templates that we're making available. We've worked with some industry professionals and some inspectors on coming up with these print templates. We'd like to offer some more, but really we'd like to throw it out to the group to see how important these are, because what I find is one of the strengths of HomeGauge that people keep telling me is the ability to customize everything. So do you want us to provide more packaged print templates and prettier print templates, or would you like us to just focus on customization capabilities? And if we did improve some of the templates, what are some of the things that we should focus on? So some of the things that we're looking at, obviously, video is a big feature that we're seeing more and more. 360 video has been supported for a while, but are there any other things that we could enhance the report templates with? So this guy is just here, this question. I'll jump through the next one and then we'll throw it back to the Q&A and get some more questions. And this one is, I'm definitely seeing this with COVID. We find more and more inspectors are doing either some kind of FaceTime walkthrough, or they're doing a follow-up video, or they're doing some kind of Zoom call after the inspection's taken place. There's various liability issues that people have got to work through. One of the things that I thought was a relatively safe item for the inspector and could offer a lot of value is a video walkthrough. So in addition to providing a rich media inspection, you could also, the night that you send the report out, say, hey, look, I'm going to give you a walkthrough as well, just to make sure that I'm explaining this in my own words so you can see exactly why I listed this, you can understand what the report is, and you can get just the basics on how to answer the, how to view the report. And you can make these pretty quickly. So I'm going to give you a quick view on one that I created just to illustrate this. Now I'll bring up, hopefully the sound comes through soon.
Hi, Mike. I'm going to give you a walk through your inspection for 16219 Millsford. So we'll go through here. We'll jump through the general notifications and comments. I recommend that you read these guys. This is giving you important information about limitations. This tells you how to read your report in depth. And we've used these codes. These are pretty standard codes. But what I'll do is I'm going to take you through the summary items right now. And we'll just highlight all of the items here were inspected. Repair and replace definitely was listed for the doors and the windows and the deck, the porch and the patio. I'm going to walk through this in a little bit more detail. We found some rot around the seal on the door, which I recommend that you have a certified professional, an insured professional come in and have a look at. These windows, it's not uncommon to see windows at this height, but this is certainly not to code. It's lower than typical. Then we see that the brickwork here, you notice there's some rot and there's some items that need addressing here. Structurally, the wrought end fence is secure, but the brickwork needs addressing.
So that's just an example of what we could do. It's in addition to your report, you can give people a quick walkthrough, and it's a value add. It's something to help you stand out from the crowd. This is also could be a good marketing tool if rather than just putting a report on your website. I do find that realtors and buyers do look at the sample reports, but especially if they're a first-time buyer, they don't really know what they're looking at the first time. I know as a first-time buyer, if I saw something where someone's walking through explaining what the report is, it's a very easy way to convey that A, you're personable, B, you're willing to walk through the questions with them, and C, that you can make this an easy transaction for them as well. So that's another area that we're looking at. Okay, so while you're filling that out, I'm going to jump into the Q&A just to make sure that everyone's able to access everything. So Maxwell, it looks like you're having issues accessing the link. We've got some guys helping you out there. So Travis, let's have a look. You've said, so realtors want me to separate immediate repair items from the items to monitor. You're saying, would it be possible for adding some basic color coding? Yes. So we are looking at that with the new print templates. That's definitely something that we can look into. If you can provide some information, definitely in this form, give me a little bit more information on any good examples that you've seen. We can look into that. Egbert, you've asked the question of, will the pricing list be available as all times as a comprehensive brochure? So this is, with any of these, anything that we're doing with presenting prices, or if we were to recommend anyone, they'd have to be optional features because, again, the laws in different states and there's different codes of conduct. A lot of these would be optional. And it, again, would have to explore how to implement it in all the different regions. So that's something we're looking at. I'll answer one more before we go through the next item. So Don, regarding the templates and the pre-fills available, I'm an inspector in Arizona. I've had some difficulty finding pre-fills that are ready to apply to my area. It'd be nice to have more regionalized inspection items or comments. Is this something that could be looked at? Yeah, so I'd say certainly. Again, provide some more information in the at the end of this document. and then we'll get back to you and we'll explore that more. Great. Oh, and then what I'm going to do is I'll walk you through the CRL feature. So just jumped off there. I'll walk you through the CRL, and then we can explore how that is to use and if there's any improvements. So hopefully everyone's familiar with CRL. I'm going to go into my report. So this is for you to create a request list. The idea behind this is, sadly, I don't agree with this practice, and we discourage this. But what tends to happen is a buyer comes on, looks at a property, and they're really looking at the home inspection to say, is this something I should buy? And the next thing is, what credits can I get? So obviously, the realtor's got to manage expectations, and they got to work with you to make sure that this isn't a process of trying to knock people down on the asking price. But if there are genuine items in the that are found in the report that you would like to, that could potentially be a problem that you would like to be addressed, the realtor typically has to pull together a list, and then they have to provide that to the lawyers. So what I typically see is the realtor will cut and paste sections of the report. They might even paraphrase some things, and that can put you into really hot water. So what we've done is we've created the request list so that directly from the report, the buyer can go through and they can look at all the summary items, and they can say, this thing's of a concern to me. How about I think this should be repaired. I think this should, I would like some kind of credit for this. So what you can do is we'll create a request list. And then I'll say, do I want to go through all the items? Most people just want to go through the summary. You've already highlighted the main things that are in the summary. And I can just go through item by item. So just like you saw before, where we were going through that video of the report, now some issues with the rot observed on the door. You've got the exact text that you put in the report. So I can say either I can accept it as is, or I can add it to the list. So I'm going to add this to the list. You can say whether you want it repaired, replaced, or if you want some monetary value for this. So you know what? I think this is a pretty simple fix. I can do this. And looking at the windows, perhaps you've spoken to someone who said, okay, we can get this grandfathered in. This isn't necessarily a problem. I understand this with a property of this age, that these things present. This guy, you know what? I don't want to have to deal with this. I don't have anyone who can help me with this. I'd like you to repair it. So you can go through, gives you a little progress bar. You can go through item by item. And what this is doing is it's creating a document which includes all of your original comments, all of your original images, and it provides feedback from the buyer on what they'd like to the remediation to be. So I'll go through this. There's plumbing. Let's say, need to repair that. This guy, accept as is. Go through. And that's done. So this has created a document for me. I can continue editing it. I can say, you know what, I made a mistake, I need to go back, or maybe there was something else in the full report. But now we've got the list. As you can see here, it includes your original inspector's comment, and it's got the request from the buyer, and it's got their comments, and it's got all of your original images, and it's separating out your comments. And then what we do at the end is we total up any of the monetary requests, total up the value, and then we total up the number of repair or replacement requests. And then that could be shared, or it can be downloaded. So what we'll do with CRL in mind, do we think that that's the that feature is something that we'd like to enhance? So we're looking at various ways to improve the workflow. Is that it's quite a lot of clicks right now? Is there a way that we could make this easier? Could we integrate it more closely with the report? Is there anything else that we could integrate with it? So that's another area that we're looking at. So I just want to check in, see if there's any questions about this right now. What screen capture software are you? Oh, the question just jumped. There was a question about what screen capture software were we using for the previous video. I can send out a link to this. It's called Loom. It's great. It's free to very, very cheap. So I recommend this if you'd like to produce a report like this. Jump over to loom.com. We're not affiliated with them in any way, but it's something that I personally use for internal trainings and walkthroughs. Let's jump through any other questions. Don, so there's would like access to the form. What I'll do is, Don, I'm just going to post that form I've just put in the chat, so you should be able to see it here. And what we'll do is this recording, this meeting is going to be recording. We'll send this out. Anyone, you can review this again in your own time, and there'll be links included to, doesn't matter when you fill out this form. I'd like to give you some feedback. I'll bring up the results for everyone just so you can see the general gist. But what we'll be doing is probably in a few days, once more people have had a chance to review this video and provide a rating, we'll be sending out some results. And then this guy, the ability to provide contractors with to complete work on any concern items. So as we were seeing over here, in addition to the pricing estimates, again, I know there are lots of regulations around inspectors offering to complete the work themselves, or even certainly providing someone that you can complete the work. Often, I think we see you've got to say, hey, look, here's 3 different recommendations you could go with. And here's typically how much it would cost. We could, through some partners, provide some options here. So you could say, okay, this is typically how much it would cost. Would you like us to connect you with someone in your area? And again, it's just a recommendation engine. We can look at if there's certified and insured professionals that could complete that work, because we understand that does reflect on you as well. So that's an idea that we're looking at. Certainly, there's some partners that we can work with. But before we go down this road, we want to know if this is really of interest to you. Is this something that you think would help you win more business? Let me open this up again. So last but not least, this is really an area for inspectors. So we see realtors often provide value-added services. And I think inspectors are under more and more pressure now to differentiate yourself from the field. So it's, do you just do an inspection? Or do you do any kind of follow-up? Do you do a security inspection? Can you give me an annual maintenance check-in? Could you come in if I've recently had some work done, or if I've had my basement converted, can you come back in and you just reassess where we're at? Or I'm about to have major work done, can you reassess my electricals and tell me if you think I've got to address any of these items before I take on a big project like that? So we're looking at here if there's any items which the inspector would like the ability to upsell. Obviously, you want to turn these customers from one-time customers into repeat customers. You also don't want to have to rely on the next time that they buy a house. There could be other opportunities in the next few years where you can come out again. Perhaps it's a safety inspection, it could be security, there could be insurance inspections, lots of different opportunities there. So again, this is just indicative. So, you know, we saw before the offer for insurance, there could be the ability for you to put in any of your own options. I know we see the Mr. Fix-It guides that a lot of inspectors are providing especially for new buyers. So like, hey, look, you can get this inspection. If you didn't get the opportunity when you were on the property, or it wasn't the right time, or they weren't really seeing the value of it, once they've seen the report and they go, okay, I'm making a commitment to this place, and wow, this property is more complicated than I thought, and having an old house is a bigger deal. Maybe this is the right time to see if they want a maintenance guide. Or maybe now, while they're already in this buying cycle, is there something else that you can offer them? So you can lock them in as a future customer and keep that communication ongoing. So this is another item that we're looking at. We'd like to know what kinds of additional services that you are offering, where you think that is in the cycle. Is it something that you typically reach out to them a few months later and you say, you know what, this is too early, and maybe this isn't the means, but this is another area that we're looking in as well. Okay, so I'm going to jump over to the Q&A quickly, and I'll just take a few more in. So I do promise I will go through all of these offline, and I'll make sure that we get some answers to you. But I'll see. So we've got law in a certain state does not allow inspector to provide any repair costs. Yep, that's what we're seeing. It's everything with real estate law, inspection codes are different state by state. So a lot of these features would have to be optional. We wouldn't just blanket turn them on for everyone. Cost estimates are expected in Southeast Florida. Yep, this feeds into what I was saying before. Some states, it's pretty much the norm. Other states, you're not even allowed to do it. Greg Davis, so it's recommending a contractor could open us up to liability if the contractor were to be sued. Some of the partners that we've been looking at would only go with fully licensed, insured, and bonded contractors. We are working on how to ensure that the inspector's protected in all of this. That's why really it's not a personal recommendation from the inspector. This is really saying, here are some people that you could be using. So yeah, that's definitely something that we'd explore if we went down that road. So I'm losing my voice a little bit. There's been a lot of talking today. Let's have a look, see if there's any more. Okay, that looks like most of the questions covered. If I miss any, we'll get back to them after the presentation. So hopefully you've all had a chance to give us some feedback on these guys. Go through to the next. Really just to wrap up, this is an example, and normally it's more interactive. Again, when we have so many people, it's hard to kind of really open it up and have a discussion. Normally the way this would work is we'd walk through something like this. There may be a follow-up form that we ask people to fill out, but it's more of a discussion, and we explore some ideas. I might come in with some wireframes. We might even do some real-time kind of playing around with those wireframes and changing some things around. But if this is something that would be that has been useful to you guys, and it would be of interest to do more, please just fill out the form to say, yep, this is something we'd like to do. Give me some honest feedback. If you say, you know what, this isn't useful for me, then just let me know. I do please ask that you elaborate on why this was helpful, or if any of these sessions weren't helpful, let us know why, because we're trying out some new things here, so we will listen to that. And then if anything to do with the product team, anything you've seen today, any killer feature that's been kind of on your mind that you just want to get out, this is an opportunity to let us know as well. So what I'll do is I'll give you guys a couple of minutes to wrap that up. I'll jump in, I'll see if there's any more questions, and then I'll give you a preview into what some of the answers were. Let's have a look at the questions. We've got a thank you, ma'am. All right, well, we'll take that. And then Tim is saying, why can't I access the extra care sessions? Tim, extra care is on a separate track. So you're on this Zoom connection is going to follow all the product sessions. So what I recommend you do is jump over to HomeGauge together. view the schedule. You are currently on the product track. So if you'd like to join any of the other tracks, oh, there is not a link. I will reach out and we'll make sure that there is a link there. I don't know what's happened with the link, but yes, this is the product track. We'll make sure that someone posts a link to that as soon as possible. Awesome. Okay. Well, thanks for your time, everyone. I'll run through the questions after the session, and we'll make sure that we get back to everyone. And to everyone who's filled out the form, I'll also be sending out a quick summary of what the results were and next steps. Great. Well, thanks everyone for your time, and we'll be following on in about 14-15 minutes with an overview of Schedule Now.